Hello to everyone at home and to those essential workers holding it down. We appreciate you. My name is Dr. Lilia Rosas, and welcome to VoxFem Xicanindia, the podcast by Xicanas about Xicana artists, musicians, and changemakers. Please visit our website, voxfem.org, and our social media sites to explore VoxFem International, VoxFem Italy, and the new Global Health Minute. You can also learn about the artists you see here today. Since this is our inaugural episode, we thought we should start by introducing the hosts, Laura Varela and myself, Lilia. We will also be introducing to you today NEH National Heritage Fellow ceramic artist Veronica Castillo. Finally, we will visit with iconic the Xicana, Tejana singer-songwriter Tish Hinojosa. Tish will be performing a solo set as part of VoxFem Live series, so check out our calendar at voxfem.org for this and future events. And we want to say that we miss you, we appreciate you, we hope that you are safe and sound, y de todo nuestro corazón, aquí estamos con ustedes.
Part of what I think is important for us to do is to always carve space. So with Resistencia, I always say that's the land. That's actually the thing that's most identifiable. When people think of Resistencia Bookstore or Resistencia Books or Casa de Resistencia, that's the thing that's most recognizable for folks. Even though it's been 12 years since Raul Salinas passed away, people remember it. And Red Salmon Arts is the programming. And so I arrived at Resistencia and at Red Salmon Arts in a really difficult moment where I felt very dislocated from my academic work. I literally felt groundless. I myself study women of color, specifically Mexican American, African American women, in what is understood now to be a relational ethnic studies lens. So rather than just looking at these different groups of women in isolation, we should create conversations to think about how perhaps they had similar struggles and journeys. And specifically, I focus on the history of women of color. And so I arrived here feeling very disenchanted with an academic degree. And so what I learned was that academia isn't necessarily the site that's going to save us, so to speak. I don't know what saves us, but it might not be academia. So part of what I learned is autonomous frameworks to create spaces where basically we save ourselves, we heal ourselves, we empower ourselves, drawing both from what we've learned from our siblings in Chiapas, but also drawing from just ancestral indigenous knowledge, which has always taught us that we need to be grounded, we need to be connected to the land, and we also need to have an understanding of not only what was going on in our mind or in our creation, but how it's related to other kind of creative forces. So for me, Red Salmon Arts has to create a space for women and for queer folk, especially women of color and queer folk of color, because those are the voices you never hear, even in the 21st century.
I would definitely suggest, first of all, that they look for mentors, because success leaves clues. And we don't have to reinvent any wheels. We can talk to people who have been through it. We don't necessarily have to follow in their footsteps, but at least know what people have gone through, maybe best practices. I think we also have to get a little bit of discipline. Like I feel like I learned this late in life, and I still have a lot to learn. But there's certain practices that artists have to be successful, and it's like some of it is like goal setting or having to practice a time when you do your work and you're envisioning and you're dreaming. Another thing is to network, because a lot of times it's your network that creates those opportunities for you. I would tell them to read and to look at much art and films that have been created in the past, and particularly to get away from American-made media and really start looking at stuff that's made in Latin America and in Asia and Korea, China, and Europe, because this is not the U.S. Like, we are the majority of, we create a majority of like the media that's mainstream and people view, but there's such beautiful art that we're missing because of the fact that we're Americans and we think that we create the best stuff, which we do. We create good stuff, but there's a breadth of artists all over the world, and not be so self-centered as an American artist,
El árbol de la vida se lo otorgaban a personajes también sobresalientes dentro de la sociedad o comunidad que habían hecho actos muy importantes o ayudado gente antiguamente, que no nada más era un ornamento, sino era más que nada considerado sagrado. Vamos a ver dentro de mis piezas, va a haber piezas contemporáneas, sobre todo que uso más la escultura, el cuerpo humano como base, como el árbol, como el tronco, como era antes representado como un ángel. Para mí el ángel son esos personajes importantes que han sido base importante de movimientos, de cambios dentro de esta sociedad.
Is an honor that you're here, that you agreed to do so. I'm a big fan of yours for many years. You have a career that spans through decades and has not only historic significance, but also it has your work has enlightened and inspired people across the world, and you have the craft of your songwriting is magnificent, and your just your existence as a Xicana Tejana from the borderlands and what that means is amazing. So
yes, thank you. It's very flattering. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's true. It's all true.
Okay. Wow, she sounds cool. I want to meet her.
Yes. So if you want to tell us what's going on right now and what projects you're working on, and then I have a couple of questions as well.
Yeah, I think I love what you do, Lourdes, and I love your tenacity in sticking with a project and moving things forward. Always, you're so great about that, and your involvement with women's issues around the world and in Europe. I also more recently just kind of got together. There's just kind of something interesting. We call it kind of a spiritual coming together of our women power. My fellow Texas singer-songwriters, I don't know if you know them, Stephanie Urbina Jones and Patricia Vaughn.
Yes.
We've gotten together in the last couple of years and we've put it together a group, and everything, all the stars seem to be aligning for us. We just finished recording a record together, and a lot of songs that we wrote, a bunch of songs that deal with the border issues that are going on right now. We filmed 2 videos down in the Rio Grande Valley right before the whole crisis hit so luckily we were able to finish the videos. This was about 3 weeks ago or so. So the record coming out now is a little bit stalled, but we're really excited and proud for where we hope to take this record.
Beautiful. I saw some of it. Some of your performances. Beautiful, beautiful work.
Yeah, we're
so glad, and it's so powerful. And it's just everyone bringing their different songwriting craft into it, and the experience is just beautiful.
It's been really fun, and a lot of things are just falling into place with that. And I'm still doing my own stuff too, but at the same time, I love doing my shows and working with my musicians and all that, but This is a whole new opportunity for all three of us, us three artists. And we, as we go down the road and have shows together, we hope to invite fellow Latina artists to be honorary Xicana mamas.
Yes.
With our group. So when we were in New York, we played a concert in New York, and we played at the Kennedy Center in DC.
Yeah.
Gosh, that was this January. It seems like that was so long ago.
Ages ago.
Yeah, another life ago.
Yeah.
And we invited another Texan Mexican American songwriter who lives in New York. She came and joined us on stage. So wherever we go, so next time we're in San Antonio, we'll invite you to come up on stage to be with us.
Oh, that would be really nice.
And we'll do one of your songs. So anyway, it's a very fun, it's fun kind of super group kind of, we have all kinds of energy, and
that is
put new energy into me too. And
yeah, that is awesome. I imagine that to happen because it's collaborations are so beautiful that way. They're like como que alimenta el alma. No, it just gives you that. So it's great to continue writing your beautiful.
And you've done those kinds of projects too. So
yeah, I'd love to do that. It's something different. Yeah, definitely. So Lilia Rosas, who is the director of Red Salmon Arts and who took the baton from Raúl Salinas and Resistencia bookstore. She had some questions to send to you as well. We are in VoxFem, we're launching Xicanindia, which is a new wing of VoxFem. VoxFem is kind of like a little bit of anarchy, like if somebody wants to start VoxFem somewhere in Italy, somewhere here, somewhere anywhere, we just started, and that's how this is developing. So it's actually a lot of fun as well.
I want to hear more about it.
So basically the goal of VoxFem is to find a woman singer, composer, artist in every country in the world and occupied territory in the world. So find a woman who's creating, being visual art or music, or it started with music, but then we just sprouted. So the question that she sends, one of them is, how does the experience of Xicanas, Tejanas artists differ from others in the music industry?
Okay, in the music industry, as in speaking for myself, or
yes, your experience, yeah.
I feel the Texan element, the Texan and Mexican American element to me, I think it adds to me in my career. It's always added extra elements of color and of not just like a polished singer or songwriter. It's more like we have a few rough edges, and we have some texture to who we are. And I think it's noticed, I think, in the music industry a lot that Texas, being from Texas, brings an element of of freedom, of the wide open range, of cowboy, of vaqueros, and of la frontera, and our Mexican parents who came and made the journey from Mexico to San Antonio. And I think that to me has always been the stuff that has set me apart from other artists. Has been the storytelling that comes from my family and from my ancestors, my roots from Mexico and Latin America that I love so much. So, and I mean, I love everything that we are as Americans too. I love the American element of who we are. I wouldn't have started songwriting had I not been listening to Paul Simon and Joan Baez and Linda Ronstadt, all these all-American music that we had in the 1970s. That's what really turned me on as a teenager. So, and then always in the background was my Mexican, the Mexican songs, the mariachi and the conjunto and all that. So to me, that's the thing that I think adds a little spice to an artist. And I feel very fortunate to be part of that.
It is a very unique position. You really embody the vernacular of your people, which also comes through in the songwriting, the writing in Spanish and in English that you do so well. And so is very beautiful to see. So it is a different experience. I see it. I think also I see when you talk about adding color and texture and like the history, you can see it. And I want to ask a little bit about songwriting, because one of the things that is very inspiring and beautifully done is the nuances that appear in your songs. The song like comes to mind, one of the many that comes to mind is the West Side of Town, that you just weave that song so beautifully to tell a story of your family and who you are and that experience that you were talking about. And so how do the music visits you? How do you capture that? What happens?
How does it come about? I think, well, I think like any songwriter, and you included, and you're wonderful about this too. You can promise yourself you're just going to sit down and write something, and I call them fishing sessions. Like if I get quiet and if I listen to just the inner ocean going on, I can throw little lines out there and begin to get like a melody or a memory or something that I want to express, and somehow little threads start coming, and then you start weaving them together. It's hard to put, that's as close as I can come to describing
yes.
How it happens, and sometimes, we don't think we're doing anything, but little by little the song structures itself, and then everything, the flood doors open, and then everything pours out. And that's, I think, the beauty and the mystery that I love about songwriting.
Yeah.
Is that we have these things inside us. And, if I hadn't sat down and got a little quiet for a while, I wouldn't have written the West Side of Town. And that's happened to me with the song about the farm workers, because my aunt and my cousins are farm workers out in California.
Yes.
And I couldn't really relate to their story because I didn't work the fields. But they did, and I would hear their stories when we were little, when they'd come through Texas, and I realized that I could tell their story because I know the struggle and I know the tragedies that they lived through, and there's all that element that most people just don't know about. Even if you do follow Cesar Chavez, or if you're a person that supports the struggles and the causa and everything, but I mean, I had personal stories. Not mine, but my family. And so that, again, we have a big ocean inside of us of lots of opportunities to find somebody's story, right, and then share it with other people. And again, I'm not sure exactly where I learned that, but I also learned it from the songwriters that I admired.
Right.
The songwriting will listen, go back and listen to Paul Simon's songs from the 1970s, The Boxer, and, these, stories that really are about like a character. And I've used some of that in my songs too. And so we learn from wherever we can learn.
I love the metaphor of the ocean. It's just so beautiful. Fishing. The album West, which is beautiful, came out, and then you re-release another record that you had done before. You did a new one. Tell me about that and how that came about.
That was so cool. The record West, I had like a dry spell. I had been going through some bad personal years, and but then I moved. I'd lived in Germany for 10 years. Yes. Came back to Texas in 2013, and finally by about 2017, I was getting back on my feet. And like I said, I got silent enough, and I put all my bad stuff aside, got into a quiet place, and ended up writing about 5 or 6 or 7 songs all within a few days. And that was the record West, that, and I was so thrilled, and got my musicians together, and within a couple of weeks we were in the studio making that record. And so I love it when things just happen like all of a sudden, it's like, that was really beautiful, great experience. And then my record Homeland, which was the one that kind of put me on the map back in 1989, it was my first major label record, and that's the one that got me touring all over all over the world and all over the country and all that. And so those are a lot of my main songs. The West Side of Town is on that record. And, you know, several other songs that I are constantly a part of my repertoire. And then sadly, that record company put the record out of print back about 15 years ago in the early 2000s. So I was kind of stuck out here as an artist who didn't own my record. And I still, I mean, I'm not dead. So it's like I'm still performing and I can't sell the record because it's out of print, you know? So I was kind of stuck in a bad place with that. But then I thought, you know what? I have re-record rights. They own that record, but they're my songs.
Right.
And if I can pull the funds together to re-record the record and make it like a re-release, I did that. And, you know, wonderfully, I mean, here's a really weird, crazy side story. That was during the time where I had my terrible surgery accident that I almost died from in 2015. And it took a long time to get back on my feet from that too, on top of my other personal problems. And then by the time 2018, 2019 came around, a good lawyer friend, because the hospital did not want to take any responsibility for what happened to me. And it, you know, it just broke me. And, you know, I was terrible with medical, you know, bills and didn't know, you know, I was out of work for like 6 months. But luckily I had a good lawyer friend, and it took him a couple of years to fight it, but he finally got me some money from the hospital. And with that money, I went in and finished this record. So I call it My Homeland.
Right.
The original's called Homeland, but this is My Homeland.
Yes.
So I took most of we went to the same studio in San Marcos where I recorded the first Homeland with the same engineer and my same guitar player, Marvin Dykehouse, who's always with me since back then. And we have almost all the same musicians. And it was just so great to have a reunion, not only of the music, but to be able to sell it again and have it available. To me, it was such a blessing. So, I mean, I went through some hard times to get there. But I think the results and, you know, the results are very, you know, have already paid for themselves, and in my health and also my ability to work and, you know, have new stories to tell. And, you know, it feels like it's been such a blessing, you know, the things that have happened to me in the last like 3 years.
It's amazing the struggles and the battles that artists go through. In many ways, lots of people go through battles, but in terms of the art, since we're talking about that, there are such like the backstory of what happens, and it also becomes the fuel for the desire to continue to work. And those things are kind of invisible in a way, but they are the fuel. Yes, thank you for just being so open about those things, because people need to hear those things. And speaking of, like, what is your for new generation of songwriters, one question is, what inspires you about that a new generation that's coming up? And what is if any, what has been the conversation of legacy and kind of like coming together intergenerationally? I you know, so sometimes to me it's like you meet new people that are doing XYZ. How do we influence each other, I guess? What have you found in your outings out there?
Yeah, I've been going to Folk Alliance in the last few years since I've been back in the States. And it's been an interesting thing. I've been involved with Folk Alliance since back in the early 90s. But in the recent years, when I was kind of reestablishing myself and all that here, back from Europe, I started going to the Folk Alliance conferences. And it was amazing, the young women that I see, and women of color that are coming up and telling their stories and being very bold with their music. And I really, it's just I've been very inspired by that. And I mean, and now I'm talking. These are very young women. They're women in their early 20s and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But I've mentored several young up and coming artists from Austin
Uh-huh.
for many years. Betty Sue is somebody that we made good friends. Oh gosh, 15 years ago. And she was very young, and she was just coming up and around. And she calls me mama.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm a Mexican mama. And I've really enjoyed watching her blossom over the years as a songwriter, as a performer, as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and the causes that she works. That's the really cool thing I think about women is once we have a way of expressing and sharing our music,
Yes.
we always want to have we want to be involved in the community and do cause-oriented things. I see that very strongly in women. Not that I don't think men do that.
Right.
The men songwriters, they get asked to do things, of course, and they do them. But I feel the passion really comes from the heart of the woman. That is just. I think it's part of our nature to want to be communal and help and heal. That's what I've noticed that, and I notice it in the young women coming up as well. So it gives me a lot of hope for our new generations.
I'm glad. Your voice has elements that are ancient, elements that are of going places, elements of movement, elements of songbird, elements of somebody who has seen a lot and yet want to see more. You have an amazing voice. How do you care for it, and how do you impart intention every time you sing, even if you sing the same song all over again? How do you stay with your voice?
Well, I mean, I try to not abuse my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't stand in the front row of rock concerts and scream my lungs out. Not that I haven't at some point in my life. And I don't have my kids around to yell at anymore either. They're grown up. No. The main thing is just trying to not abuse the voice.
Mm-hmm.
But an important thing to remember is, like with me, like I need to keep the good thing about having gotten together with Patricia and Stephanie in our Xicana Mamas thing is that I've been exercising all my muscles. I've been exercising my vocal muscles. We've been singing together, singing harmonies together, writing songs together.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't, to me, it's like my songwriting style was, well, like when the muse hits me, or, it was a private thing. And so they've been making me, they're my younger sisters, they're younger than me, and they really push me to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, and getting back on stage, and, we just have a blast on stage. And, but it's been challenging singing, and we sing a lot and we rehearse a lot. And so those are, but it's good. I mean, it's good. At my age, I'm 64 now, and I think it's important, and it's good to have my younger, what do you call them? My colleagues, or whatever we are, kind of pushing me to, hey, don't start retiring, lady. You got to keep on working.
I have those retirement moments. And it goes like, oh, hello, we're still here.
I know. So I know, no, they're keeping me young too. So I was like, okay, yeah, I got to go do this. So anyway, that to me that's my vocal exercise is keeping things fresh, and they're helping me keep myself fresh, as well as I love doing my concerts, and I love it when Marvin, my guitar player, and Chip, my keyboard player, when we get together to do a show, it's just like so refreshing and so fun to reconnect with people who still want to hear the old songs and all that, and they welcome the new. But it's great to have fans that have been listening to my music for 30, 35 years.
Yes, that is
a good thing.
I imagine that's like, it's like when we did that show together in Austin, it was like a blast from the past.
Oh, that was seeing so many familiar faces in the audience there, and you and me, and we used to play the Chicago House.
Yes.
And all those great old places back in, it reminded me so much of being in Austin, the early 90s, where we were all doing our thing and doing it together too. That was.
Mil gracias por siempre estar abriendo los caminos y por el legado y por la importancia y relevancia histórica de tu trabajo. A veces uno no lo ve, pero sí lo vemos. We see you and we see the significance, the historic significance of your work. Sometimes you're in it and you don't see it. We have these moments. But I just want you to know that we see it, and is enormous, and is a gift. And I just want to thank you and just tell you that it's always an honor to talk to you, to get together and to sing together is awesome, and to listen to you is
Gracias. Tú eres un regalo también.
Oh.
Eres regalo.
Oh.
Thank you both. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you so much.
This is called My Good Guitar. You've traveled well, you've traveled far. We've loved each other for what we are, and soared through space, Venus and Mars, past the sun, straight to the stars. We've lived our songs in city bars and hotel rooms and rental cars. You've been my sidekick above it all, my steady friend, my good guitar. Though we are weathered, we both pull through. You look like me, I look like you. We've been through hell, we've fallen hard. I've picked up pieces and glued the shards, and music flows through cracks and scars. It's you and me, my good guitar. Though we are weathered, we both pulled through. You look like me, I look like you. We've traveled well, we've traveled far. We've loved each other for what we are, and music flows through cracks and scars. It's you and me, my good guitar, and music flows through cracks and scars. It's you and me, my good guitar.